Now, in terms of who has to submit the biennial report, it is required, at least for generators, and that's what this class is going to kind of focus mostly on, is generators of hazardous waste, specifically the large quantity generators, all right? The larger facilities that generate larger amounts of waste. And you'll notice that this report has to be created if you become a large quantity generator for even just 1 month during the reporting year. So remember, the reporting year is last year, 2025. So if maybe you're normally a small quantity generator and you had like 1 or 2 months where you bump into the larger status, well, unfortunately, you have to make the biennial report unless you did it as an episodic event. We'll talk a little bit about what episodic events mean on some of the upcoming slides. But if you ever ship hazardous waste off-site to a TSDF site to get it treated, stored, or disposed, or if you do your own treatment, storage, or disposal on your own site, again, you're going to have to fill out that biennial report if you're a large quantity generator. And the form that you're going to use is EPA Form 8700-13A/B. You can find that online. Just throw it into Google. It's also in the instructions that I mentioned. So again, please click on those instructions at some point. Now, what is a large quantity generator? This is going to be based off of the federal definition, okay? Partly why we've kind of underlined the word federal is that you might live in a state that has some additional state hazardous wastes. Those do not count towards whether or not you have to create a biennial report, all right? You only have to create a biennial report if based off your federal hazardous waste, if you've exceeded certain thresholds. And you can see them on the right-hand side of the screen there. For non-acute hazardous waste, I like to call that the regular hazardous waste. That's the waste most of us have. The cutoff is 1,000 kilograms. All right, so if you're at or above that amount, that's about 2,200 pounds, you'd be considered a large quantity generator for that month. For the acute hazardous waste, I like to describe that as the nasty, nasty stuff, right? Extremely toxic, quite nasty types of things. For any of you that have gone through hazardous waste training, you might recognize that as being what's called P-listed waste. But if you have acute waste, because that stuff's nasty, it's a much lower cutoff. It's a little more stringently regulated. You'd only have to generate just 1 kilogram. It's about 2.2 pounds of acute waste for your site to become a large quantity generator for the month. And if you accidentally spilled that nasty stuff, the acute hazardous waste, well, when you go to clean it up, sometimes it gets mixed up with cleanup residues and stuff like that. There is a separate number for that, 100 kilograms. Most people don't really deal with that situation, but it's part of the definition. And again, if you're a large quantity generator for even just 1 month, you would need to fill out the biennial report based off, again, 2025 numbers. Now, I did quickly mention that I said, hey, if you become a large quantity generator for even for 1 month, you have to do that biennial report. The exception to this would be if you did an episodic event. Now, if you don't know what an episodic event is, the situation is, let's say you're a very small quantity generator or a small quantity generator, and you just had 1 bad month where you just made too much hazardous waste. It's more than normal, and it would normally bump you into that large quantity generator status. Well, there are some special rules that you can follow, and they're found at 40 CFR 262.232, where it's called the episodic event rules. And as long as you follow those requirements, you can actually retain your generator status, but it's really just kind of a one-time relief. So if you are, become a large quantity generator for like 2 or 3 times, you wouldn't really normally be able to do an episodic event. It's really just a 1 bad month type of thing. And you would have to notify your state ahead of time to say, hey, we're going to do this as an episodic event. So that would be a way to kind of avoid having to do the biennial report if you're a smaller size generator. There are a few other people that also have to fill out a biennial report besides large quantity generators. If you work at a TSDF site, that just means treatment, storage, and disposal facility. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a place where you treat and store and dispose of hazardous waste. They also have to fill out that report. We're not really going to get too much into TSDF stuff because, again, like I said, this class is kind of geared more towards generators. And it is also required for reverse distributors of hazardous waste pharmaceuticals. That's kind of a mouthful. There's a special rulemaking called the pharmaceutical rule, which allows you to follow some alternative standards for healthcare facilities and reverse distributors. If you don't know what a reverse distributor is, that's essentially usually the pharmaceutical company, because they're going to accept back unused pharmaceuticals. So those companies would also have to fill out a biennial report. And we're not really going to get into that particular type of person, but just making you aware of it. Now, again, the whole point of this report is we're providing information to the government, right, to the EPA, so they can use it. And how does the EPA actually use that information? Well, first off, it's going to track national trends. It essentially gives a snapshot. It says, okay, around the whole country, here's how much hazardous waste is being generated. And we can also kind of take a snapshot of each state. So like over here in California, here's how much waste was generated. Down here in Texas, here's how much waste. Over here in New Jersey, where I'm located, here's how much waste was generated. It also helps EPA determine how to best allocate their agency resources so they can spend the money appropriately. And it can also help them set enforcement priorities and maybe target sites for inspection. Because if you live in a state and it shows, hey, this state's making a lot of waste, and you're one of the biggest generators in that state, well, they might prioritize your sites for, an audit or something like that.